Hi everyone, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Elvin, you said I think some people are on spring break and on a vacation. I agree, but I'm gonna give them another minute, see if anyone else joins, and then we'll get started, okay? Okay, I don't think anyone else is joining, so we'll get started. Okay, so last week we did a couple things. We went over a couple different idioms and words like we usually do. Wesley, I don't think you were there for the last class, so I'll ask Elwin to answer some of these questions. Elwin, if you can you try explaining what the phrase going bananas means? Do you remember?
Like going getting very excited when something like exciting happens.
Yes, good job. Do you remember what to go cold turkey means?
Not really.
Not really, that's okay. So to go cold turkey, like we said last week, I'll go back to the definition. Um, it just means to stop doing something all at once, okay? To suddenly stop doing something, okay? And then, do you remember what the word measure means?
Like to mm, to find the length of something like a building or something.
Good, exactly, to find out the length of something. That's good. And then the word jealous, do you remember that one?
Yeah. It means like when someone gets something that you want, you
Yeah,
will want it.
exactly. Good. Okay, awesome. So yeah, that's just a quick review. Wesley, I think you're new. So usually at the beginning of class, we'll do a review of what we did in the last class, like we just did. Okay, so let's go straight into the quote of the day. So the quote of the day is by Dwight Howard. It says, "Today is a new day. Even if you were wrong yesterday, you can get it right today." Okay. Could I have Owen, could you please read this first paragraph here?
This quote means that everyone makes mistakes, and that's okay. What really matters is that each new day gives us a fresh chance to try again and do better. If something didn't go well yesterday, we don't have to feel stuck or upset about it because we can learn from it and make better choices today. It reminds us to keep trying, be positive, and never give up on improving ourselves.
Good job. Okay. And then Wesley, could you please read this part?
Uh, Dwight Howard is a professional basketball player who has played in NBA for many years. He is known for being a strong defender and great teammate. Beside basketball, he often shares encouraging message to help people stay motivated and believe in themselves.
Good job. Okay. So let's go over this a little bit. So again, the quote is by Dwight Howard, this basketball player. And again, just to summarize what you guys read, it just means that every day is a new chance to try again and do better, even if yesterday didn't go well. it's important to look to the future, to tomorrow, and try and make that better than it was the day before. Okay. And again, this was said by a professional basketball player, Dwight Howard. Okay. And besides basketball, he has a lot of other quotes where he shares these messages to help people stay motivated. Okay. So let's go straight into the idioms and phrases. Okay, so what we do when it comes to idioms is we'll go over the definition and the example of an idiom, and then I'll have you guys write a sentence for it. And again, an idiom is just a fun way of saying something. Okay, so for example, the first one is chasing rainbows. So this isn't something that's very common in English, but it's an idiom that means something that's a little bit different than the literal meaning. Okay. So could I have Elwin please read the definition and the example?
Trying to do something that is impossible or very unlikely to happen. If I think I can catch a real rainbow, I'm just chasing rainbows.
Good. Okay, so chasing rainbows means chasing a goal that is almost impossible, or it's unrealistic, or it's just a waste of time. Okay. It's basically trying to get something that you'll never actually reach. Like, for example, trying to find a pot of gold at the end of a real rainbow. Okay. So it's a way of saying that you're trying to do something that's very hard to do. So, for example, if I think I can catch a real rainbow, I'm just chasing rainbows. So what this means is that catching a real rainbow is very hard to do. It's almost impossible. Okay? So you can describe it by chasing rainbows, okay? So it's like you're chasing something that's impossible. Do you guys have any questions about this one? Okay, if you end up having any questions, please ask. Could I have you both try writing a sentence using this idiom in a sentence? And if you have any questions, let me know. Once you're done your sentence, could you just paste it in the chat or type it in the chat so I can see it? Okay. Okay, so now for the correction. So, Elwin, you said today I didn't think I was chasing rainbows because I thought it was possible to reach a star on Earth. Okay, good. Your sentence makes sense. There aren't any mistakes. You spelled everything correctly. The only thing that I would say is maybe this isn't needed, but you could always add a comma here. This will help your sentence flow a little bit better, but it's not needed. Okay, even then, your sentence still makes sense. Okay, good job. And Wesley, you said he could win the swimming match. I think he is just chasing rainbows. Okay, good. Your sentence makes sense. There aren't any mistakes. Um, the only thing, maybe you could add like the word but here. You could say, but I think he is just chasing rainbows. That would help the sentence flow a little bit better. But even without it, it still makes sense. Okay, but I'm gonna add it in just because, again, it helps the sentence flow. Okay. Okay, guys, good job. Let's move on to the next idiom. So the next one is fly on the wall. Okay, could I have Wesley please read the definition and the example?
Fly on the wall. Definition: someone who quietly watches or listens without being noticed. Example: I wish I could be a fly on the wall during this surprise party planning.
Okay, great job. So like you said, being a fly on the wall means watching or listening to something, or someone without anyone knowing that you're there. Okay. Um, for example, we see someone is doing surprise party planning, and the person is saying, I wish I could be a fly on the wall during their surprise party planning because they want to watch and listen as to figure out what the surprise is without being noticed. Okay, if that makes sense. Do you guys have any questions about this one? Okay, I think you guys are good. Again, if you have any questions about this, please ask, but I'll have you try writing a sentence now using the idiom, please. Okay? Okay, so Elwin, you said I really wanted to try and be a fly on the wall to spy on criminals to complete my task of a detective. Okay, so you used the idiom correctly, which is really good, and I like the example you use. It's very creative. The only thing that I would say is that instead of saying my task of a detective, you could say my task as a detective, okay? Because that makes more sense. It shows that you are the detective rather than like you're doing the tasks of a detective and you're not the detective yourself, okay? So, done using the idiom correctly. Your example is very creative. Okay. And Wesley, you wrote, he was a fly on the wall during the TV time of his neighbor. Okay, this makes sense. If you're trying to say that he was watching the neighbor's TV without the neighbor knowing, then this makes sense. Okay, good job. Great job. Okay, guys, we'll move on to the third idiom. So number three is cut to the chase. Okay. Could I have Elwin please read the definition and the example?
Get to the main point without extra details. Let's cut to the chase. What's the answer to the problem?
Okay, great job. So, like you said, cut to the chase means getting to the main point. It's to skip the long story, to skip the boring details, and get straight to the main point or the most exciting part, okay? It's like, for example, if you were watching a movie, it's like if you skip to the action scene in a movie because you don't have time, okay? So sometimes when there's a long story, people will ask you to cut to the chase so you can just tell them the main idea, okay? In the example, we see instead of going through the solution to the problem and showing how you got the answer, they're saying, just give me the answer, if that makes sense. You're cutting to the chase, you're getting to the main point. What is the answer? Rather than asking, hey, can you show me how you got to the answer? Okay. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about this idiom? Okay. Okay. I think you guys are good. If you have any questions or you need help with your sentence, let me know. Okay. Could I have you both try writing a sentence now? Okay, so Elwin, you wrote, we cut to the chase in our meeting just when we all entered. This makes sense. You're saying like you cut to the chase in your meeting, as in like you just got to the main point in the meeting instead of going over the long story and all the details and stuff. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And then Wesley, you wrote, he came to my house and said he wanted to ask a question, and then he said a lot of things. I just want him to cut to the chase. Okay, so let's go over this one thing at a time. So, first thing is make sure you're capitalizing the first letter. So, make sure it's uppercase like you did before. He came to my house and said and then the next thing, um, so this word want isn't like WAN, the apostrophe and then T, that's not
Yeah.
used in English. So the
Yeah, I want to just want.
oh, okay, I see. Instead of maybe you could say he wanted. Does that make sense? He wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change that then. But good job. It makes sense. I still understand what you're saying, okay? But he came to my house and said he wanted to ask a question, and then he said a lot of things. I just want him to cut to the chase. Okay, perfect. Good job. Good job using the idiom correctly. Um, okay, great job, guys. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the words. So we just did three idioms. Now we're going to do three words and some sentence writing. Okay. So the first one is sudden. Sudden. Could I have Elwin please read the definition and the example of sudden, please?
Uh, oh, yeah. Happening quickly and without warning. There was a sudden loud noise that made everyone jump.
Okay, great job. So yeah, sudden means something happens very quickly and without any warning. It's like a surprise that happens in a flash, and it's something that usually catches you off guard, okay? So it happens when you aren't ready for it, and it usually happens very fast and it's not expected. Okay. So for example, and there was a sudden loud noise that made everyone jump. This makes sense because this happens without warning and it's unexpected, which is why people jump. Another example would be, for example, if you're going outside and you're playing on a sunny day and suddenly it starts to rain. You're not expecting it to rain, right? So that would be another way that you can describe the rain. It's very sudden. Okay. Or maybe if you were riding a bike and you stopped immediately, you could say that that's a sudden stop because you're stopping right away very quickly. Okay. So sudden can be used in a lot of different ways. Could I have you guys try writing a sentence using the word, please? And as always, if you have any questions, please ask. Okay, Alwyn, you said the flash of light was so sudden in our classroom that I felt frozen in place. You used the word correctly, so great job. And there are no corrections. Okay, awesome. Great job using the idiom correctly. There are no corrections. Okay, so well done. And then Wesley, you said there was a sudden explode in the building beside ours. Okay, so this makes sense. The only thing is that instead of you writing explode, you would say explosion. And then building, there's an L right here that you need to put. Okay, so you just missed one letter. Okay, good job. But your sentence makes sense. Okay. Using, and I realized I wrote idiom. Sorry, the word. Okay, well done using the word correctly. In this sentence, it's explosion instead of explode. So make sure you are spelling words like building. Good job. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next word. So the next one is rise. Could I have Wesley please read the definition and the example?
Definition, rise, definition, to go up or move higher. The sun will rise in the morning.
Okay, good. So yeah, rise just means moving from a lower place to a higher place or getting bigger. It's the opposite of falling or sinking, okay? So for example, you could say it means standing up after sitting. Or if you're moving up, it means going up like a bird flying into the sky. Or if we're talking about something that's growing or increasing, it can mean something getting larger, louder, or higher in number. Okay, so in this example, we see the sun is moving physically up, okay, by rising in the morning. Okay, do you guys have any questions about this word? Okay, I think you guys are good. If you do have any questions, please ask. But yeah, rise can be used in a lot of different ways. Okay, so please try writing the sentence now. Okay, so Alvin, you said I was starting to rise from my bed in the morning. This makes sense. Good job. In this case, you used rise in the sense that it means to get up. Okay, so good job. Well done using the word correctly. Your sentence makes sense. Did not need any corrections. Good job. And then, Wesley, you said after they fall, it's our turn to rise. So the only thing that I would say is to use the word it in the beginning, but this makes sense. Okay, good job. So after they fall, it is our turn to rise. Good job. Okay. So now the last word that we're doing today is slip. Okay, could I have Elwin please read the definition and the example?
To slide by accident and lose your balance. Be careful not to slip on the wet floor.
Good job. So yeah, slip has a few different meanings, but they all basically mean moving quickly or smoothly or accidentally or making a small mistake. Okay, in this case, this definition we're looking at is when you slide suddenly and lose your balance because the floor might be wet or it's icy or it's slippery. Okay, so here in the example, we see someone saying, be careful not to slip on the wet floor. They could also be saying, be careful not to slip on the ice because ice is very slippery, right? Okay, so try writing a sentence now with the word slip, please. And if you have any questions, please ask, okay? Okay, so Ellen, you said at school I slipped on the mud from the rain yesterday. Good job. Okay. Good job using the word correctly. And Wesley, you said someone spread soap piece on the wet floor. I slipped after I stepped on them. Okay. So first thing is your sentence makes sense. The only thing is that we're gonna write pieces instead of piece, okay? And then make sure you're spelling the word correctly, okay? So I slipped after I stepped on them. And then this I, you did the lowercase I, make sure it's uppercase, okay? So someone spread soap pieces on the wet floor. I slipped after I stepped on them. Great job. Great job. So the next part that we do is just a reading exercise. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys read these slides, and then at the end, if we have time, we'll go over the vocabulary and then we'll go over the questions. Okay, so the first slide, I'll go ahead and read this one. So the story is called Buttons and the Blue Glove. Okay, Buttons the cat is flying through the air. She cannot fly on her own, of course. After all, she is a cat, not a bird. But here she is, flying in the clouds. Buttons is hanging on tight to a wing of an airplane with a blue glove in her mouth. This glove is her favorite thing in the whole world. It's why she's on the airplane. Inside the plane, a pretty woman in a red hat waves at Buttons and smiles. How did Buttons get on the airplane? Where is she going and why? Well, it all started about a year ago. Buttons was walking along in a very nice alley searching the trash for food. Quite suddenly, she was caught up in a net and put into a box with holes. These kidnappers took Buttons to a shelter and locked her in a cage with food, water, and toys. Okay, next slide. Could I have Elwin please read this one?
Buttons were there for a very long time. People would come and go. They would peer into her cage and smile. Buttons did not want to be kidnapped again, so she would hiss at them. Hiss, she would say. People would shake their head and walk away. This happened day after day, and Buttons felt safe inside the cage. One day, a woman named Maggie came to the shelter. She wore a red hat and red sweater with a cat on it. She had bright blue gloves, and she put her face right up to the bars. "Hello, kitty cat," Maggie said. "Hiss," said Buttons. Maggie didn't seem scared. She chuckled and took off her blue gloves. "Poor kitty," he said.
Okay, great job. Okay, next slide. Could I have Wesley please read this one?
But all Buttons saw were those gloves, so blue, so soft. Yes, Buttons want those gloves. So she took one. And that is how Button came to live the house of a human named Maggie. Purr, Button said. Anything to get closer to the gloves. Maggie came and went, and she never asked Button for anything. She always left fresh fruit and toys, and one day she left her blue gloves on the kitchen table. "I'm going on a vacation," Maggie told Buttons, kissing the top of her head. "I'll see you when I get home." The kiss was nice, but all Buttons saw were gloves.
Okay, great job. Could I have Elwin please read the next one?
As soon as Maggie shut the door, Buttons was on the move. She grabbed one of her gloves in her mouth and held it there. She threw it up in the air and caught it again in her paw. This became a game. Up went the glove and up went glove and down went buttons. Finally the glove went up and landed on a windowsill. Buttons went up onto the windowsill. Crash! The window opened wide up. The glove went tumbling out, caught by a strong gust of wind. Buttons leaped into the air, but the glove was always one step in front of her. Behind her, the house was getting smaller, smaller. All she saw was the glove. Blue glove. Must get that blue glove. Buttons start.
Okay, can I have Wesley read this one now?
Button always stopped and looked both ways before crossing the street. The glove, being a glove, didn't know how to stay safe. The glove ran to the street right in front of a bus. Bam! The glove was caught in the grill of the bus. Button chased the bus. The bus stopped at a red light, and that was where she caught it. The doors opened, and the bus driver tipped his hat. "Do you have a bus ticket?" he asked. Button did not have a bus ticket because cats normally do not ride the bus. "Get out, freeloader," she said as the bus screeched off. The bus drove away so fast the blue glove went flying off the bus. Button jumped into the air to catch it in her mouth, but just as she did,
Okay, can I have Ellen please read this one?
Whoosh! A strong gust of wind opened the glove up like a balloon. Buttons was holding on with her teeth, but she was no match for this wind. Up into the sky they went. That's when a flock of geese flying south for the winter saw the beautiful glove starting to fall. "Is that a flying cat?" one of the geese asked. "I think it is," the other goose replied. "And such a pretty color blue on that glove." "A cat cannot fly very far like that," the first goose said. "Indeed. Let's help her." And so the geese decided to help Buttons fly. They lifted her onto their wings and flew her up, up, and away into the clouds until they reached an airplane.
Okay, great job. Could I have Wesley read this one, please?
set Button down on one of the airplane wings. "You're welcome," they said in a huff. "This rude cat didn't even thank us." Inside the plane, Maggie was on her way to visit her mother. At this moment, she remembered she forgot her favorite gloves on the table. She looked out the window and saw the glove. Then she saw Button. Button looked in the window and waved at Maggie. Thanks to the pretty blue glove, they were going to an adventure together.
Okay, great job. So we're gonna move on to the vocabulary because I don't think we'll have time to do the questions. So we'll just do the vocabulary. Okay, so there's three words I want you guys to know. The first one is adventure. So the definition of adventure is something that is exciting or an unusual experience, often involving something new. So for example, our trip to the forest felt like a big adventure. Okay. Number two is gust. Could I have Elwin please read the definition and the example for gust?
A strong sudden burst of wind. A gust of wind blew my hat off my head.
Okay, great job. And then number three is shelter. Could I have Wesley please read the definition and the example?
Uh,
Could you read number three, please? Shelter.
Shelter.
Thank you.
Definition: a place that protects you from weather or danger. Example: we went under a tree for shelter when it started to rain.
Okay, great job, guys. So we won't have time to go over the questions, so we're just gonna do the short quiz, okay? So Wesley, because you're new, we usually do a five multiple choice quiz. So these are just very simple questions, okay? Number one, what does cut to the chase mean? Okay, A, run very fast. B, get to the main point. C, stop talking forever. Or D, tell a funny story. So this was one of the idioms we went over. Um, if you're not sure, you don't remember, that's okay. Just type in the chat A, B, C, or D. Okay, so Elwin is saying B in the chat. What do you think, Wesley? Okay, so both of you guys said B, which is the right answer. Good job. So number two, which sentence shows chasing rainbows? A, I finished my homework early. B, I'm trying to grab a real rainbow in the sky. C, I helped my friend clean up. Or D, I read a book before bed. Okay, the answer is B. Good job. Number three, what is a gust? So we just did this one. What do you guys think? A, a quiet sound. B, a type of cloud. C, a strong sudden wind. Or D, a small animal. Okay, great job. The answer was C. Okay, number four. Which example shows someone being a fly on the wall? A, talking loudly in class, watching a game on TV, C, quietly listening without being noticed, or D, running in the playground. Okay, great job. The answer was C. Okay, and then number five, last question. What does shelter mean? A, a place that keeps you safe. B, a kind of food. C, a fast movement. Or D, a loud noise. Okay, Wesley is saying A. Elwin says A. Okay, great job, guys. That was the answer. So it was A. Okay, so that's it for the quiz. I'm gonna quickly go over the homework. Okay, so As always, review everything we went over because next class we'll have the review like we did this class at the beginning. And then the only homework task you have is to write a short story about a character who goes on a surprising adventure. Just like Buttons, the cat, your character might chase something important, get caught in a sudden problem, or end up somewhere unexpected. I want you to try showing how your character reacts and what they do to solve the problem or stay safe. And I want you to try to include at least two vocabulary words or idioms we've learned. So here are some examples. You could use any other ones in this lesson today. And your story should be about 80 to 100 words long, which is about the length of one paragraph. Okay. This is due by next meeting on Saturday, April 11th. And I want you to try submitting it on the Dr. Joe Academy online homework form. Okay. So that's it. Do you guys have any questions about this task? Okay. We'll move
Yeah.
on. There's so there's four fill in the blank questions at the end. These are all after class exercises, and all the answers are in today's slides. So, for example, here is just some fill in the blank from the quote of the day, and then this is an idiom, and then the last two are just two word definitions. Okay, so that's it for today's class. I'm going to send you guys the link. Okay, so there's an error with the sharing, so I won't send it now, but that's all for today. If you guys have any questions, please ask, okay?